Welcome to day 18 of Shadowhunters month, and today I'm going to be talking about why I love Clace. Of course, the pairing of Clary and Jace. I'm going to be talking about why I love them individually and as a couple. And it's pretty cool to kind of revisit Clace and how it all kind of began for me, because I feel like they're probably like the first couple you might start liking together in Shadowhunters, be it the show or the books. I feel like they're kind of the first kind of hints that there's going to be a romance. So it's kind of like the OG romance in Shadowhunters, which is really interesting to look back and think of, considering all of the different pairings and stuff we have now. But yeah, they've I think it's safe to say they've been through a lot together and apart. Had a lot of kind of world-shattering events happen, and yet they've kind of got through it, and they got through it together. So I think they've had a very powerful story. So we'll start off talking about why I love Clary. I think it kind of helps that she's the protagonist of the Mortal Instruments for the most part. She's kind of the first character we really get to know very well, because we see a lot of things from her point of view. So straight away we're kind of rooting for her, because we feel like we should, because she has a focus, and it's clearly her story that we're following when the Mortal Instruments kick off. And I think that's why one of the strongest things, and the thing that I love loads about Clary, is her character development over not just the Mortal Instruments, beyond that as well, because she's made several appearances in different series. And I think she's probably, because the story is called for it, had probably the biggest development out of any character, simply because she went from being this like mundane 16-year-old, or maybe even 15 when this died, I can't remember, this like mundane girl who had no idea about demons and vampires and shadowhunters and warlocks and all that, and suddenly she's thrust into this world, and she finds out the truth about her father, and that she has a brother. Then she doesn't have a brother, but she still actually does have a brother. She gets loads thrown at her, and it's a lot to deal with, but she kind of takes it in stride for the most part. And we've seen her go from that into this incredible fighter and this incredible shadowhunter, really like embracing her destiny, and that's such a drastic character change, but it worked so well, and it needed to for the story to kind of make sense, because Clary had to kind of overcome all these obstacles by becoming who she was meant to be. And I think that's just a really cool story, and Clary kind of really owned that development, and just seeing how far she's come from like chapter 1 of City of Bones to now, it's just insane. And I think that showed pretty well on the show as well. Obviously we haven't had as much time with Clary on the show, and I think things have happened quite quickly on the show, but we've still seen that development, albeit maybe a bit faster paced than we would have done in the books. But it's still really cool kind of seeing how much Clary has grown over the books and the show. So I love her development, and I love the fact that she is an absolute fighter. She's always fighting something, be it physically or emotionally, because obviously she has to kind of fight her feelings for Jace when she thinks he's her brother. She has to fight against the Clave, and she fights her mother, she fights Valentine, she fights Jonathan, she fights Lilith. And she has disagreements with all sorts of people, so she has kind of all these different fights going on, all different sides, all the time, and it's very rarely she lets them really get to her, because she knows what her ultimate goal is. She's a very determined character, and I really love that about her. But I also love that no matter what she's fighting, be it inside or outside of her, she normally wins that battle, and she finds a way to overcome so much pressure that even like half of the things she was going through, if someone had to deal with that, it probably would have like crashed and burned and crumbled, but Clary really kind of fought back, which is probably part of because of who she was born to be, and she has like these extra special abilities from Valentine's experiments and stuff like that, with like her being able to create runes. So it's kind of written in the stars that she was destined to be this incredible fighter, and she's fought back against so much. She's so determined, and I really love that about her. And I also love that the character as a whole is kind of rooted in the theme of family, because she kind of grew up without a father. Then she found a father figure in Luke, and she had Jocelyn, who was then taken away from her. Then they got her back, and there was like conflict with why didn't she tell me about this like shadow world and everything. And then we had the whole kind of incest stuff. And then kind of the main villain she had to fight were her own father and then her own brother. And I love the kind of theme of family in anything, because that's just something I personally really connect to. And the fact that if anyone represents family in Shadowhunters, I think it probably might be Clary, because all the main threats she has to go through really are family based. So I really kind of connected with that aspect of her character, and I really like that. And in the show, maybe we don't get that quite as much, because obviously Jocelyn's dead in the show. We kind of had to just kind of briefly deal with Clary being... Oh! Fucking hell, someone just fell off my desk. Anyway, someone doesn't like Clary, clearly. Whoops, sorry. Stop talking. I completely lost my train of thought now. God damn it. It's a little action figure with the Joker. It's just completely ruined my day. Yeah, so we kind of spent a few episodes with Clary kind of dealing with maybe not having a family because her mother's gone. So that's kind of an interesting way the show changed that up in terms of her character, but still kind of exploring the same theme. But I really like that Clary is, in a very odd way, defined by who her family is. Lots of people kind of judged her because of her Valentine was her father, Jonathan was her brother and stuff like that. But all she's ever fought for really is to prove that she's not like them. And I think that's a really cool kind of character journey and a struggle for her to go through. And, you know, basically she smashed it. So I love that about her. But I also love seeing her caring side. And sometimes it's just like the slightest detail we get in the books that, or even the show, that she really does care. You know, in terms of the books, we have when Simon dies in City of Ashes, and Claire kind of insists that Simon gets buried in a Jewish cemetery. So I love that she clearly has that caring side where she cares about Simon's roots and where he came from, and I love all that. And then the way she kind of comforted Emma after everything went down in City of Heavenly Fire and beyond. Because I really like Clary and Emma's kind of relationship in the books. I think it's really sweet. It's kind of almost a maternal kind of thing. And a lot of Clary's kind of softer side comes out when she's talking to Emma, and I really love that aspect of her character, and something I actually wish we could see a lot more of, so hopefully we will. But I love that. And in the show we've kind of seen a lot of that caring side as well, because we see very much in the show just how torn she is over, like, particularly in season 2, how torn she is over Jace and Simon, and she doesn't really want to hurt either one of them. And she's very aware of everyone's feelings at any given time, which is quite a handy trait to have. You know, and even when her mother's just been killed, you know, she very much wants to check if Alec's okay, and check if Isabel's okay, and check if Magnus is okay, and stuff like that. And I think that kind of testifies to what a pure heart Clary really has. So I love all that about her, and those are just some of the things I really love about having Clary be this protagonist when the Mortal Instruments kicks off, and just seeing how far she's come since then. And in terms of Jace, basically I love all the Herondales, particularly Will, and they kind of have this running theme of pretending to be like these absolute pricks, basically. and pretending they don't care about anyone or anything and pushing people away where deep down inside they're really hurting, and they're putting on a brave face for other people because it just makes it easier for them if they're not particularly liked. And Jace very much kind of followed that pattern, as we learn in the Infernal Devices, when we kind of learnt about Will. But Jace was kind of where we first saw that trait come out, and I really love that. And what I really like was, again, Jace is kind of tied in family as well. And while Clary is kind of almost defined by who her family is, in a way Jace is also defined by who his family isn't, and I really like that kind of opposite attract kind of thing, and the parallels between those two characters I think is very, very interesting, and why I think it kind of works having them two be together. Because Jace is kind of, is he a Herondale? Is he a Morgenstern? Is he a Lightwood? And he's very much torn between all these things for so long, and trying to find his place in the world almost. And I think that's a very interesting and insightful struggle to watch Jace go through all of that, both in the books and the show. And I think it's really kind of endearing to the character, and something you kind of really find yourself rooting for Jace to figure out. And that's one aspect of his character I really, really love. So the tragedy behind him kind of masking his pain for the benefit of others. And then also kind of, you know, trying to find a place in a family, but also pushing that family away to protect them. There's just something really endearing, a quality I personally find with that. So I really love that about Jace. And like the bonds he has, like Alec, his power play bond is something really, really special. And Izzy, Max, Maris, however you want to say her name. He has formed some really special bonds, and he really kind of learned, and we saw him really grow as a person. I think he definitely became a lot more wholesome and a lot more open and accepting of his own flaws through meeting characters like Clary or Simon. And I really, really love that. You know, the Jace we have now and like the Dark Artifices, kind of worlds away from the Jace we first met. 'Cause he's kind of not as arrogant as he used to be, or at least not as openly arrogant. And when he's arrogant now, it's kind of as a joke. So again, seeing that character development is just really, really endearing. And yeah, he kind of really learns to respect people, and he still very much goes against the authority a lot of the time. But I think more so in the books than the show at the minute, but I feel like the show will probably get there eventually. We've seen Jace really come to learn to respect Simon as an equal. You know, he used to just call him like mundane or Monday or something. Now he calls him Simon, which is definitely growth. And they've kind of formed this really nice kind of friendship that I really, really like. One of the most underrated friendships, I think, for me is Jace and Simon. Because they both started out really hating each other, and they've come to respect each other. And because Simon's my favourite, I really love that Jace found a way to find the good in Simon and came to really accept him as a friend. And they've had some really genuinely touching scenes together. So I love that kind of whole friendship. And just seeing how much Jace has learned about people and authority and stuff, I think that's quite endearing. And while I don't think Jace is as good as fighting like his feelings or holding back from his feelings as Clary is, he is kind of a fighter and a warrior in the physical sense. Because he has fought for so much in the name of so much, and has physically fought people as well. He's just sort of a badass. And he can have these few really funny one-liners as well, which I find really, really cool as a character, because I really like kind of the funny characters who know when they can be funny, but also when they can be serious. And I feel like Jace does fall into that category. So I love that. Yeah, and he's gone through so much torment, so much pain. I feel like particularly in the show, and they do not give Jace a break in the show. They've put him through the ringer in, you know, books and the show, but everything that's been thrown at him, he has overcome it, and he has in the show, he's still very actively dealing with a lot of trauma, and we'll probably see that in 3B, but it shows the strength that he has, because life has not been kind to Jace at all. He's had so much bad stuff happen to him. I mean, he's freaking died and come back, and he kind of has taken it in his stride in a way, and he has let it change him, which I think is quite endearing. And I love that against all the odds you can kind of have faith in Jace as a reader or as a viewer, that he'll find a way past it. So I love that. And in terms of Clace, I do, like I said, mention it's like the OG relationship of Shadowhunters, if you will. So there's kind of nostalgia there for me. Because I think as I was reading it, I was kind of like, oh, I really like Clary and Jace together. And I think that was the first time I kind of said that about two characters. So there's nostalgia there that I really like. And they just kind of bounce off each other really naturally. And there's this really good chemistry right from the off. And the same on the show. I think Kat and Dom have some really good chemistry on the show. And their performances also help elevate the characters in my eyes. And yeah, right from the off, they kind of have this really fiery chemistry as well. And fire is kind of a defining factor of their relationship, be it if they're arguing, if there's like this burning passion inside them, if you will, even in the whole kind of sibling thing that went down, they found a way through that, and their belief and loyalty and love for each other kind of got them through a really difficult emotional patch. I feel like there'd have been some situations where Jace and Clary may not have survived if they didn't have the other to support on and lean on. So I think that's quite a beautiful thing. But yeah, fire kind of really defines who they are, particularly with like heavenly fire, because Clary kind of stabbing Jace with that sword literally kind of filled him with heavenly fire. It was kind of like a physical representation of what their relationship has always been right from the start. Because, Jace was never really serious about anyone before Clary, and there's this girl with this fiery hair, and it kind of stems a fiery relationship between the two that I really like, that there is that fire and that heat and that passion between them, very much at the forefront of their relationship, but they can still be kind of really sweet and genuine, and there's this deep-rooted love there. So I really like that about them. And yeah, they're very, very loyal to each other. Even when they thought they were sisters, when they thought they were brother and sister, they still kind of had to fight to be loyal to each other, and they still wanted what was best for each other, even if they thought they couldn't be together. Maybe more so in the show, because in the books they still kind of made out a lot, which was kind of icky. But they very much were like a support system for each other through that. Clary kind of sat Jace down at one point, I think it was series 1 episode 12, and said that she's still going to be there from him and everything, even if they couldn't be together. And Jace kind of let Clary be with Simon, even though he would have rather have been Simon, but he didn't get in the way of that or purposely tried to destroy that relationship, which I think is quite noble of him. So even when they thought they could only be friends, they still want what was best for each other, and I really like that loyalty they had. And the relationship in itself kind of helped us to see the softer side of Jace, and this kind of vulnerable Jace that I don't think otherwise we would have seen. So I feel like through being with Clary, Jace become a much better and fleshed out and more well-rounded character. So I think in terms of plot and character development, Clace makes a lot of sense. And they were very much the heart of the Mortal Instruments, I think, particularly for the books. But yeah, they bounce off each other really well. They're so supportive of each other. They have this fire kind of running through them. And you really get the sense that they will do anything for each other and fight to the death for each other. If you'd feel like there's an obstacle that is trying to get in the way of Clace, and you're like, oh, good luck, buddy, because Clace would just outright destroy you. And I really love that about them. And again, the nostalgia, they're like the OG relationship. Not my favourite relationship in all the Shadowhunters, of course, but there's a lot of nostalgia and respect there, and they really, really work well together. And you know, they became, particularly in the books, this legendary couple. And I think that kind of says it all. You know, they're kind of legendary. After all they've been through, they've survived it, and hopefully they will continue to survive it. So yeah, that is why I love Clary, why I love Jace, and why I love Clace. They're kind of, yeah, a very special kind of pairing. And can you imagine Shadowhunters without them? How different would it have been? Crazy, really, to think about that. So we need them. Shadowhunters needs them. So yeah, that's why I love Clace. Let me know your opinions on them, whether you like them or not. And until tomorrow's video, thanks for watching.